symbolic of the fact that we are laying our hands upon our brother. And join me in faith as I pray. Father, thank you for our brother who has served so faithfully as a pastor and now leads us in engaging, God, needs that we may be able to meet where we see someone that is in need of both body and soul, need of salvation. God, I pray that you would enlarge the heart of Great Commission Baptist to see that we were the one on the side of the road when you stopped for us. And I pray, God, that love of you for us would now produce an unquenchable love in us for others. God, I pray that you would anoint, God, the mind and the heart of Bryant Wright as he envisions what you want his church to do in the world. God, I pray that he might, in the words of William Carey, expect great things of you and then attempt great things for you. God, we pray that everything that's in his heart, you would allow him to see the fulfillment of, as Paul says in 1 Thessalonians, every act of faith and every resolve for good, that you would fulfill it by your power. God, we ask that. We ask it believing that you want to give us these things because Jesus died to give us these things. And so we pray according to his mercy and his grace and not our plans and not our righteousness. We commission our brother. We love our brother, and we send him into this role that you have for him. In Jesus' name, and all God's people said, amen. One more time, put your hands together for Dr. Bryant Wright. You may be seated. The chair now recognizes Adam Greenway, the chairman of the Committee on the Order of Business, for a report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. The Committee on Order of Business brings these recommendations regarding motions made by messengers yesterday as part of our report this morning. The committee has determined that the following motions deal with the internal operations or ministries of convention entities. Under SBC Bylaw 26B, these motions are automatically referred to the appropriate SBC entities for consideration and report back to the 2022 Southern Baptist Convention meeting in Anaheim. To the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, Motion 5 by Jared Longshore to ask for an investigation of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. Motion 12 by Todd Benkert to request the ERLC to perform an assessment of sexual abuse in the SBC. Motion 23, Tristan Clark, motion to study strategies to abolish abortion. Motion 25, Walter Boutwell, to provide information and guidance on puberty blockers. To the International Mission Board and North American Mission Board, Motion 32, from John Blackman, to enhance ministries to the deaf. To the Executive Committee, Motion 3, Alan Murray, to add a fellowship meal Sunday to the denominational calendar. Motion 7, by Grant Gaines, to ask for an investigation of the Executive Committee. Motion 20, by Roy Youngblood, to add a Sunday of repentance to the denominational calendar. Motion 24, by Gary Leroy, to make Nashville the permanent site for the SBC Annual Meeting. And to the Executive Committee and to all SBC entities, Motion 28, Brad Patterson, to request convention entities to examine the use of non-disclosure agreements. Motion 31, Rick Hilland, to request that entities conduct certain audits and disclose financial details.
So we now turn to any time for discussion. So microphone 4, do you have a motion or a question in relation to the business at hand?
I have a point of order about the motion that I made yesterday.
State your point of order, please.
I'd like to ask for a point of privilege because it's my understanding that my motion may be referred.
Do you mind giving your name and the church you're a messenger
Yes, I'm
from?
sorry. Grant Gaines, messenger from Bel Air Baptist Church in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
And I assume that you are speaking to motion number 7.
Yes, that's if my motion is going to be referred to the Executive Committee.
Yes, that was what Adam's report was.
Well, I'd like to ask for a point of privilege to speak to that, if I may.
Yes.
Brothers and sisters, serious allegations have been made against our Executive Committee on matters related to sexual abuse. And these allegations are not just coming from a former entity president. Even more significantly than that, These allegations are coming from several church sexual abuse survivors who experienced abuse within our Southern Baptist churches and who have alleged that they brought their cases to the Executive Committee and the Credentials Committee only to feel that they were brushed off, disregarded, and turned away. These are not the kind of allegations we can sweep under the rug. These are horrific allegations that we must get to the bottom of and that we must investigate in a thorough and in an unbiased manner. Recently, our Executive Committee announced that it was commissioning a third-party investigation with Guidepost, and I'd like to applaud them for taking this step. However, I believe that in order for this investigation to be truly external, independent, and unbiased, then we can't have the Executive Committee setting the terms of the investigation themselves. They can't be the ones to hold themselves accountable for cooperating with the firm of this investigation, and they can't report the findings themselves. It's very simple. Since they are the ones being investigated, they can't be the ones in control of the investigation. If there is even a hint of a conflict of interest or misrepresentation of findings or biased reporting on this investigation, it will be totally disregarded by abuse survivors and the general public, and rightly so. The only way to ensure an honest investigation, an honest report of its findings, is to establish a neutral party, like a task force, who can oversee and handle this investigation from beginning to end, and who can then report the findings to the public along with recommended action steps for us to take in the future. This might seem like too much trouble to some, but I assure you it is the least we could do for abuse survivors. We should be bending over backwards to do everything we possibly can to ensure that we take care of this the right way. It is worth the extra effort. It is worth the money. It is worth the time and attention. It is worth it because abuse survivors are worth it. I want to speak to every survivor of sexual abuse in the room right now. I know there are a lot of you in here. And I want you to hear it from this microphone in front of 17,000 people. You are worth this. If this investigation is worth doing, then it's worth doing right. So I want to appeal to my friend Roland Slade to prioritize this, to not even wait until your next meeting of the Executive Committee in September, but to call a special called meeting as soon as you possibly can, preferably before you leave Nashville. If you do this, I believe the Executive Committee has an opportunity to rebuild trust. I believe that. You have an opportunity to rebuild trust with survivors. You have an opportunity to rebuild trust with this convention. You have an opportunity to rebuild trust with the watching world. And so I want to appeal to you to take this opportunity to rebuild trust. Thank you for letting me speak to this.
Microphone 4A, do you have a question or a motion regarding these things?
Mr. President, Peter Lumpkins, North Hall Church in Gainesville, Georgia. I have a point of order, if I could, concerning motion number 24, which was misidentified by the platform. I don't know what script was read from there, but when I'm reading, number 24 has my name on it.
His motion? Yeah. Ask if he would wait just a moment.
Could you give us just a moment to confer, Peter?
Sure.
Peter, are you referring to the motion to strike a portion of a report published in the 2021 Book of Reports?
Looking, yes, right there, number 24 that's listed.
That is coming here in a moment.
Okay, very good, thank you.
If you'll just stand by, and if we don't get to that, then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
But stay at microphone 4.
Stay at microphone 4, though.
For the benefit of the messengers, each motion that is submitted is counted in the order of submission. And so the numbers that I'm reading out correspond to the number of the motion in terms of its being presented. That does not correspond specifically to the proceedings, which includes more than just motions in terms of what happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 during each day's agenda. So motion 9 is the Peter Lumpkins motion that will be dealt with in a moment. I believe the messenger there at 4. Motion 24 is Gary Leroy's motion because it was the 24th motion made in the proceedings yesterday.
Convention is a place of a million acrostics and a bunch of numbers, so it's hard to keep all these things straight. 5A. Do you have a point of order?
I made a motion yesterday, was not brought up just now, to amend bylaw 10C to make sure that when people nominate an individual, we know what percentage they give to the cooperative program.
Brother, if you give me just a second,
amount.
they have not concluded their report. They've only dealt with what they did with a certain grouping of these motions. So there's more of a report coming. We were just entertaining questions on those. So yours will be addressed here in just a moment. The chair recognizes Barry McCarty, our chief parliamentarian, for a word of explanation here.
I'll take that for everyone who's helping on the platform. Ladies and gentlemen, where we are, the Committee on Order of Business is in the process of reporting on all the motions that were made. So please be patient. At this point, the motions that were read by the chairman a few moments ago, these are motions that are being automatically referred under bylaw 26B because they deal with the internal operations of entities and committees of the convention. So if you didn't, these are the only motions we're dealing with at the moment. So I'm going to ask the operators to clear our microphone board, clear the board. If you have a question or a point that specifically deals with that first list of motions, we would like to hear from you now. If your motion was not mentioned, be patient and wait until the committee gets to that, and then if you need to ask a question about that, we'll deal with that then. Please, you've been wonderful. We have more people than we've had in 25 years. But that creates a lot of pressure on the system. So work with us, be patient, and we'll try to get to everything in the right order. Thank you. Okay. Ask 5A if his question or point refers to these motions.
5A, does your question or point refer to these motions?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, my name is John Blackman, messenger from Meansville Baptist Church, and I'd like the point of privilege, if possible, to do a brief speak to my motion on American Sign Language in our ministry here.
And which number was that?
The note is 87. I'm not sure what number motion it was given.
Number 32. Number 32.
Okay, number 32. To number
yes, sir,
32,
you are recognized,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
If you could be very, very brief.
Yeah, very, very brief. All right, so here it is. Not all who need to hear the gospel can hear. And when you look at these numbers of 11 million people with less than 4% in North America, and we're being outpaced by groups preaching a false gospel, there is no excuse for our convention to not do all we can on this continent. And so I am thankful for the referral to NAM and IMB to talk together because of the wonderful work that has been done for the Deaf Affinity internationally. All I would like at this point is if I have other brother and sister messengers who agree with a move like this, if you could join me in applauding in American Sign Language, it would be appreciated. Thank you, Mr. President.
You've granted the privilege to a couple of speakers, but tell them no debate is in order right now.
Okay. All right, so just remind you that no debate is in order right now. We've granted some personal privilege to a few of the speakers, but no debate is in order.
Proceed with the rest of that.
Okay. Under the convention's rules, these motions are referred as indicated by the Committee on the Order of Business.
On behalf of the Committee on Order of Business, I move that the following motions be referred as follows for consideration and report back to the 2022 Southern Baptist Convention in Anaheim. To the Executive Committee, motion number 1, Jay Atkins, to ask the Executive Committee to study conflicts of interest in relation to the roles of legal counsel. Motion 6, Ted Traylor, to consider discontinuing the Committee on Resolutions. Motion 15, Robert White, and motion 19, Jason Wing, to provide messengers earlier access to proposed resolutions. Motion 16, by Charles Johnson, to address committee amendments to resolutions proposed by messengers. Motion 17, Stephen Bailey, to require inclusion of CP information in nominating speeches. Motion 18, Nate McLaughlin, to allow international missionaries to vote by proxy at SBC meetings. Motion 27, Philip Nelson, to refer to the convention as the Great Commission Baptist Convention. Motion 30, Christopher Benavides, to rename the SBC. To the North American Mission Board, motion 8, James Walker, to ask NAM to study the Enneagram.
So you've heard this motion from the Committee on Order of Business to refer several motions. Are you ready for the question?
Ask 8A if he wishes to speak to the motion to refer.
8A, do you wish to speak to the motion to refer?
No, I don't, but I would like the opportunity to make a motion to overrule the Committee on Order of Business at the appropriate time.
In regards to what?
In regards to the referral of Grant Gaines' motion to investigate the Executive Committee.
Is he moving for a two-thirds vote to put that before the body?
Are you moving for a 2/3 vote to put that before the body?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Is there a second? Okay, so all those in favor of overruling the Committee on the Order of Business, their recommendation to refer this to the Executive Committee with the privilege of Grant Gaines. This requires a 2/3 in the affirmative. If you wish to overrule the Committee on the Order of Business, please raise your ballot. Okay, you may put them down. Opposed, the same sign. There are 2/3 in the affirmative. And so the committee will schedule that motion for debate.
In light of the action of the convention to request the committee to schedule this for debate, we will schedule this for debate at 3:30 p.m. this afternoon in the session for previously scheduled business.
Okay, continue on with the script there.
We're now ready to vote on whether to refer these motions as recommended by the Committee on Order of Business for consideration and report to the 2022 Southern Baptist Convention in Anaheim. If you are in favor of referring these motions, please raise your ballot. All opposed, the same sign. The affirmative has it, and the motion has carried, and the motions are referred.
The Committee on Order of Business requests the chair to rule that the following motions are not in order. Motion 2, Alan Nelson, to place restrictions on cooperative program allocations to SBC entities. This motion is similar in nature to a motion already deemed not in order by the messengers yesterday during the vote on the cooperative program allocation budget. Also, the budget has already been adopted and now cannot be amended by this motion. Motion 11, Bob Dutton, to address critical race theory. Motion 26, Todd Stinnett, to express the convention's position on racism and doctrinal unity. The committee determined these motions were in the nature of resolutions expressing the messenger's opinions rather than motions. Motion 13, Brian King, to have the SBC investigate claims in certain legal briefs and court filings. The SBC is not a body that can perform investigations, and the motion contains no mechanism for an investigation to take place. Motion 29, Michael Hoffman, directing the Committee on Order of Business to provide more business time during the 2022 annual meeting. Under our bylaws, the Committee on Order of Business is given the sole responsibility to propose a program for the convention. However, our committee does intend to provide this motion to the 2022 Committee on Order of Business for information and their consideration. Motion 4, Tom Askell. Motion 14, Alan Cross. Motion 22, Jonathan Six. All motions to rescind resolutions adopted in previous meetings of the Southern Baptist Convention. These motions attempt to do something that is impossible to do.
I recognize that there's been a lot of interest in rescinding Resolution 9 from our 2019 convention, and also, as of yesterday, a number of other resolutions that were brought forward that for possible rescission. Before I rule on these motions, I would like to ask Jamie Jordan, who is one of the convention's attorneys, to give a little bit more explanation about why these motions to rescind resolutions of previous conventions are out of order. So, Jamie.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the conversation about rescinding a resolution, there's been considerable confusion caused by the fact that Robert's Rules of Order and the Southern Baptist Convention use the same word, resolution, but they use the word to mean two completely different things. Roberts uses the word resolution as a synonym for motion, although it may mean a fancier or more formal type of a motion. But the SBC uses resolution to mean something else. Look at page 12 of your SBC bulletin under helpful terminology. For at least 44 years, the Southern Baptist Convention has defined resolution to be the expression of an opinion or viewpoint expressed by the messengers to a particular annual meeting. A resolution is the opinion of the messengers who adopted it. It is not binding on the SBC entities or churches or even on the SBC itself. The messengers to a later convention can express their own opinion on the same subject, and it can be a different opinion. In fact, that's happened several times in the SBC's past. While the messengers are completely free to express their own opinion on a matter, what they cannot do is to nullify the fact that a previous group of messengers expressed their opinion. Southern Baptist polity would not allow a future convention to erase an opinion that you expressed when you adopted resolutions yesterday. By the same token, you can disagree with a previous group of messengers, but you cannot nullify the fact that they expressed their opinion. Another reason why SBC policy works this way is to keep you from being weighed down by every resolution the convention has ever adopted. You don't have to dig through the history of SBC resolutions and decide which ones should be treated as your opinions unless you rescind them. If resolutions could be rescinded, then the failure to rescind a resolution would have to mean something. In my opinion, and in the opinion of the Committee on Order of Business, resolutions don't work that way. Roberts allows a body to rescind a motion, but SBC polity does not allow one group of messengers to rewrite history by canceling an opinion another group of messengers expressed when they were sitting in your chairs. That's an impossibility.
So thank you, Jamie. For the reasons stated, the chair rules that all of these motions are out of order as recommended by the Committee on the Order of Business. 2A, what is your point of order?
Yes, sir. My name is Chris Cunningham. I pastor a church in Victoria, Texas. And there was a motion, number 20, about an investigation into the ERLC. And I can't go into a lot of detail here, but I'm just going to go straight to the reality. If there is not an investigation done quickly, my church is not going to give money to something we have no idea how it's being spent.
Brother, I'm sorry, this is not a point of order.
I understand, but I'm just telling you the reality.
3A, state your point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Ben Cole from Prestonwood Church in Plano. I have a question that I'd like clarification from the chair if I could. The attorney who just addressed this body, Jamie Jordan, was he addressing this body as the convention's attorney or as attorney representing the executive committee? That's one. And two, is Mr. Jordan the same attorney who was advising the executive committee in their handling of the Jennifer Lyle matter?
He is the convention's legal counsel.
And that's the capacity in which he just addressed us?
And that is the, yes, sir.
Okay, his polity advice to us, was that rooted in his legal expertise?
At that point, I am speaking for Jamie Jordan. Jamie, do you? The question's been asked and answered. Yeah, the question's been asked and answered. So
Thank you, sir.
We're going to go to 9A. 9A. State your point of order, sir.
My name's Tom Assel. I am the pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Cape Coral, Florida, and President Greer. Yesterday, you ruled that a messenger could only present a motion to rescind one resolution at a time. So why today are you ruling that my motion to rescind a resolution is not in order at all? We've just heard the explanation from the attorney and what he said should be done in terms of passing a new resolution over 1,300 Southern Baptists attempted to do. And the Resolutions Committee would not bring out our resolution. What recourse do we have?
His motion's out of order.
Yeah, your motion is out of order for the reasons that were stated earlier
Why
by the
did you
Committee on the Order of
rule
Business.
yesterday that such a motion was in order if they were offered one at a time?
I did not make a ruling yesterday. They were just
You
submitted.
did, sir. It's on the record. It's recorded somewhere. I'm sure we could ask the tech people to bring it out so that we could watch it again.
Tom, your point of order is not well taken because accepting a motion yesterday, even when some are ruled out of order, does not mean that it is de facto having to be ruled in order when the Committee of Order of Business considers it later. Right. That's the Council of Parliamentarians.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate very much that. I will accept that ruling, but I would like it a matter of record that over 1,300 Southern Baptists submitted a resolution that the Resolution Committee refused to bring out.
Five A, state your point of order.
Yes, Todd Stent, Black Oak Heights Baptist Church in Knoxville, and I'm speaking against what was just set forward by the committee. I brought forward a motion yesterday that I would like to have a vote here at our convention this year, and I'm not quite sure we can't vote on it. So I don't know if there's any explanation that could be provided.
Do you mind telling us what your name is, which motion you're referring to?
Todd Stennett, Knoxville, Tennessee. I do not have the number in front of me.
Could you give us the name?
Yes, mine was a motion. I can read it if you'd like.
Just give me the name of it. 26.
I'm not certain what they named it.
It's this. Here's his motion.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
The motion from the messenger reads, I move that the messengers of the 2021 Southern Baptist Convention take one vote to accomplish all of the following: to reject every form of racism by affirming that every member of the human race is made in the image of God; to reject critical race theory and intersectionality as unbiblical philosophies that exist to divide people along the lines of race; to affirm our conviction that Jesus is Lord, the Bible is the inerrant and sufficient Word of God, and the Great Commission is mandatory; to vow to maintain a doctrinal unity that compels us to reach every tribe, tongue, and nation with the unadulterated gospel of Jesus Christ. This motion and the four parts of that were deemed by the committee to ask the convention to express a position of opinion or conviction that would be properly understood to be in the form of a resolution. Resolutions express the opinions of the messengers. There is no actionable item in terms of motion here that would, in a sense, have the convention to do something, if you will, rather than merely express an opinion. And it is for that reason that our committee determined that this was truly a motion in the form of a resolution, and because the time for the introduction of resolutions has passed, this motion should be ruled out of order.
I would like to appeal that ruling, please. I don't know why under heaven we cannot take a vote on the things that I just set forward.
Hold on a second. Before you make your appeal. I'm sorry, sir, that is not appealable. 5A, state your point of order. 5A, state your point of order, please. 1A, I'm sorry, 1A. Do you have a point of order, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Brant Frost, Flat Creek Baptist Church, Fayetteville, Georgia. My question is it within the power of the messengers assembled here today to vote by a two-thirds vote to suspend the rules or whatever parliamentary language is necessary to allow us to vote on the gentleman 26 motion in the form of a resolution? And if so, Mr. Chairman, I would so move.
Hold on.
The answer is no.
You want to give an explanation?
No.
The answer is no.
Why am I not surprised, Mr. Chairman?
The chair and the parliamentarian are discussing whether or not an explanation should be given.
I'll be happy to.
The chair calls on the parliamentarian to give an explanation, and the parliamentarian has to do what the chair tells him to do. So go.
There are bylaws that govern the presentation and consideration of resolutions. They have to be submitted 15 days before the convention starts. And it is the unanimous opinion of the parliamentarians, the legal counsel, that the motions that are ruled out of order because they're in the nature of a resolution, there's only one way to see that. We're sorry that you didn't have your day to speak, but try again next year. Submit your resolution in time, make the deadline, and we'll see what happens then. But that's why that the parliamentarians have advised the chair that they're out of order and that this is not appealable because there cannot be two reasonable opinions. Thank you. All right, sorry.
The chair is happy with his opinion to call on the parliamentarian.
Ask 5B, does he have a point of order related to one of these motions?
5B, do you have a point of order related to one of these motions?
I do. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Brian King from Harvest Community Church. I made a motion yesterday regarding certain filings that will happen before the Supreme Court. I would like to ask the committee to reconsider and move this to the executive committee to form a task force to investigate these legal filings. Tomorrow, NAM will be before the Supreme Court of the United States proposing information that disregards the autonomy of the local church and local Baptist associations and conventions.
Yes, sir, we understand that you've made that request.
So the language in the motion that was presented, and I'll get to the move part, I move that the SBC, as soon as is possible, investigate the legal claims presented in the NAM and the ERLC court filings, etc. The SBC is not an investigative body. The SBC is an annual meeting of messengers. So this motion calls for an action that could not possibly be carried out. And if we were to consider taking the executive committee into this, then you have the executive committee attempting to exercise undue influence over NAM and the ERLC when it comes to their legal court filings as independent entities of the convention accountable to convention-elected boards of trustees. For that reason, the committee still believes this motion should be ruled out of order.
So the chair rules that these motions are out of order for the reason that is given. Tim Moore. The chair recognizes Tim Moore, the vice chairman of the Committee on the Order of Business.
Good morning. The Committee on Order of Business further recognizes that the chair, or recommends, that the chair rule the following motion out of order. Motion number 9 from Peter Lumpkins of Georgia to strike a portion of a report published in the 2021 Book of Reports. Since there is not a motion before the convention right now to adopt the report in question, a motion to amend that report is not in order. Thank you and Godspeed.
Now, ask Mr. Lumpkins, is 4A, if he has a question regarding his motion.
Microphone 4A. Do you have a question regarding your motion?
Yes, I have a point of order.
You state your name.
Peter Lumpkins, North Hall Church.
Welcome back.
In Gainesville, Georgia. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, help me understand how a motion could be ruled out of order when it's based and grounded in bylaw number 31 of the Southern Baptist Convention. Please help me understand this.
Chair is going to recognize Tim Moore to help that understanding.
And then move the clincher. This report has not been actually a report to the convention. In other words, it is a report that is generated by the entity. I know what bylaw 31 says in terms of all other matters before the body and reports. The convention has the right to consider and amend the body. But this is not a report to the convention per se. It's a report internal to the entity, and therefore we don't have a motion before us to accept the report per se. It was published and offered by the entity, and so we are not authorized to enter and amend that report that is internal to the entity. Does that explain your question, brother?
Not really. Here we've got a book of reports, the Southern Baptist Convention 2021, and that bylaw states that all reports can be amended by the Southern Baptist Convention, but now all of a sudden these are not our reports that we can amend or talk about.
I would just say that in the tradition of the convention for many years, as long as living memory of the body up here has been serving and beyond, this has not been done because this is a published report within the entity. And to say those words were never published, that was not the report that they offered within themselves, is not in our purview. And again, it's an interpretation of bylaw 31 that has been in practice for a long-standing time.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So, Peter, let me, Peter, this actually was dealt with at a convention on a different issue. Same question, though, 2 years ago with a report, I believe it was submitted by Wade Burleson. And so, in fact, let me ask the chair of the Committee on Order of Business why the reasoning that was given then, which is the same reasoning that would hold now. Chair recognizes Adam.
2 years ago, this convention considered a substantially same issue when Messenger Wade Burleson from Oklahoma moved to amend the report of the International Mission Board to add language to it. At that time, the chair declared, in light of Bylaw 31, Bylaw 31 has to do with reports that are brought to the convention. In a sense, reports under the control of the convention for which the convention has an actionable item. Recommendations that come to the convention from standing committees and others that require your action are under your control and can be amended. If you're asked to adopt a report, you can amend that report. When you refer motions to entities, those entities are entrusted with giving you back a response. That is a response under the control of that entity's governing board. You are not asked to adopt that response. You are not asked to approve that response. You may or may not like that response, but there is no actionable item there because that is simply a response back to you. It is an impossible act for you to amend something that is not brought to you to be asked to adopt.
So for the reasons stated, the chair rules this motion is not in order for the reasons that have been given. So the report is concluded. This completes the report of the Committee on the Order of Business at this time. So we are going now to the nominations for the recording secretary. Or actually, excuse me, the nominations have already been in. I instructed you earlier, if you came in, that these nomination speeches were